Hey there, my friend. My name is Jen Kilburn. If we've never met, I am the founder and the owner of Comfort and Joy Art. I create art classes on video for children ages 5 and up. And today I'm going to be sharing my story, part 2 of my story of how I started with painting and with art. And I also will be sharing some words of encouragement for you as well in your story, in your journey. So I hope you'll hang out with me for just a little bit to hear part 2 of my story. So in the first video, I talked all about the divine invitation that I had to paint when I was in the midst of an incredibly, oppressively stressful time while working in healthcare. And I'm not going to rehash that entire video. You can go back and watch part 1 if you haven't done that yet. But you might have wondered, as I was sharing part 1 of my story, how was it that I was so, I don't know. I mean, the word that comes to my mind is clueless in terms of like art and creativity and all of that. So let me say a couple of things. First of all, I shared in that first video that when God invited me and strongly urged me to start painting, and I was sharing that I had never really, had any art experience in my life, really. I mean, I had art experience as a child and in school, but and creative projects, that I would do in my growing up years. But as an adult, I mean, there really wasn't much to speak of that I can think of in terms of, anything that would be art-related creativity in my life, or even anything close to it, really. And so let me just give you a little bit more background about that. So my earliest memories of being creative are when I was 3 years old and I was finger painting. And I absolutely loved finger painting when I was 3 years old. I remember if my mom would give me a choice to do a few things, she would say, do you want to finger paint? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? And if finger painting was a part of, if that was an option, I would choose that. I wanted to do that. I just loved doing that so much. It just, I guess something, there's, I guess, just that kinesthetic, therapeutic element of finger painting that really connected with me and just really brought me a lot of joy in life, even at that young age. So moving forward from there, when I was in elementary school, we did, some mixed media art projects. My first few years of school, I was attending a private Christian school, and we had, a lot of our art teachers were volunteer art teachers in that capacity. And I remember doing a number of mixed media art projects, and they were fun and enjoyable. And, I liked the creative process. I can't say that I fell in love with it, but, they were projects that were accessible to me. But starting when I switched over to public school in 5th grade, and then for the remaining of my years until I graduated from high school, it seemed like there was this pretty much sudden shift to art classes that were mostly focused on recreating realistic or photorealistic art. And there might have been a little bit of variation on that when I was in 5th and 6th grade. But by the time I got to 7th grade, I was growing up in a small town in a very rural school setting. And I I was, I attended a school, and I was in the same school with the same art teacher from 7th through 12th grade. And we had to take, I believe it was 2 art classes in those grades. Between 7th and 12th grades, we had to take 2 art classes. So I had to take like one when I was in my junior high years and one when I was in my senior high years. And that experience put me at a significant deficit in terms of art appreciation, art understanding. Having spent 13 years painting, creating art, teaching art, leading workshops, creating art classes on video for children, experiencing art in various capacities. I have to say that my experience with art as a junior and senior high schooler was so weird. It just was so, let me put it this way. So when I'm talking about art as I see it and know it and experience it today, and even looking at, what other children are experiencing today, art programs in schools, all kinds of community art workshops available in so many different places. Everywhere you look, in every one of those places, if there's art, there's almost, it's synonymous with color and beauty and inspiration and joy and life and growth, and it's just beautiful. There's so many different styles of art and ways that people can connect with creativity based on what resonates with them, what their skill levels are, what they want to learn about. There's just so many different styles and aspects of the way art can be enjoyed and appreciated today. But that was not the case for me at all, and I don't know why, but it was about as far over on the other end of the spectrum as you could ever imagine art being. So when I was in 7th through 12th grade in my art classes, the focus was pretty much on drawing photorealistic or realistic art. And, we would be given a white piece of paper and a pencil. I know maybe there were a couple of times where we were given a larger piece of white paper and some charcoal, but mostly it was pencil and white paper. And this must have been the skill set, the strength that the art teacher had that led him into this career, because that's pretty much all we did. That was all the projects and the students' work that got hung up as examples of good artwork were all pieces of art that were, maybe I can think of 1 or 2 exceptions, but almost all of them were realistic or photorealistic pencil drawings on white paper. And you would never even begin to imagine the art room. I mean, I'm going to describe it for you, and it was the most lifeless, colorless, boring, dusty, plain art room that you could ever imagine. I mean, like I said, there were a couple of maybe 1 or 2 random posters up that may have said something about, like some technical aspects of art. Maybe there was something about the elements of art I don't remember specifically. And like I said, there may have been like one or two examples of student artwork hung up in the room, and then there was a bulletin board behind glass right outside of the art classroom where there would be, you know, a few other examples pinned up from exceptionally skilled and gifted students who knew how to draw realistic art or photorealistic art. And that was what I grew up in. And I never went to an art museum until I was an adult. My parents are, I should say, are and were creative. My dad has been a contractor for decades, and so he's very creative in terms of building and remodeling, and you know, all of that, all of the ways that someone gifted in that way could, you know, enjoy creativity. And my mom, unfortunately, I lost my mom recently, but she was very, very gifted and interested in things like needlework, embroidery, punch needle, Victorian, Brazilian embroidery. She did a lot of sewing when she was younger. She painted ceramics. She did punch needle projects. She did quilting. She, you know, she had a lot of different creative things that she loved. She taught herself in her later years to tat, which sort of looks like lacy crochet if you've never seen tatted items. So she would do tatted snowflakes and tatted angels and tatted crosses and turn them into Christmas tree ornaments. And so she had a lot of creativity. She loved doing Zentangle designs, and for probably the last, I don't know, 20 to maybe 20 years of her life, she made her own greeting cards, and she incorporated all the different things that she loved about creating these greeting cards, you know, her designs, her Zentangle designs, her tatted snowflakes, tatted angels, you know, all these different aspects. And she was really creative. So she would teach me some things as I was growing up, and I enjoyed that. And I enjoyed looking at spaces. Like, for example, when I was 12, I was told that I was going to be able to move out of my bedroom that I was sharing with one of my sisters, and my parents were basically going to switch me with my other sister. So I'm the oldest of three girls, and they were going to let me, as the oldest, have my own bedroom, and my sister, my youngest sister, was going to be moving in with our middle sister, and they were going to be sharing a bedroom, and I was going to be able to have a room of my own. And so I remember the creative inspiration that I had when my parents said, this is going to be your room, and we're going to redo the entire room exactly how you want it to be. So you get to pick everything out. You can pick what you want the walls to look like. If it's wallpaper or paint, you can pick what, you know, colors you want for your sheets, your bedding, your everything. The entire room. We'll redo the entire thing just for you. So I remember thinking through that process and just having a lot of fun choosing what I wanted, and all the various shades of basically blue and white that I had decided on to decorate my room. So it's not that I didn't have a propensity or a joy in doing some creative things. It's just that in terms of like art, when it came to art, you know, all my experience and interactions and teaching about it was just like, if you're going to be an artist, you have to be able to draw a photorealistic representation of something on a white piece of paper with a pencil. And if you can't do that, then I guess art's not for you. Like, that's pretty much the message that was being shared with me as a student in my formative years from, 7th through 12th grade. And so there was, I remember, this is embarrassing for me to even say out loud, especially because of all the ways that God is leading me in this capacity now in my life. But I remember going to college and, meeting friends and seeing people. And I remember seeing and just, hearing people introduce themselves, that they were there and where they were from and that they were majoring in art. And I thought to myself that that was the biggest waste of time. Like, why in the world would you do that? First of all, you're never going to be able to get a job. And 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 because I had no good experience with art, it just didn't seem practical to me. So I wasn't intending to be condemning or condescending. It was just that I didn't have any concept of how that could lead someone to a meaningful path of fulfillment. And especially because I was at a significant deficit because of my lack of art education, that gave me that perspective that if you're majoring in art, you're wasting your time. Because obviously, I don't think that at all, because the Lord has done amazing, miraculous things and brought me full circle, and is doing so much in that area of my life. But I just wanted to share that background, and because, you may have been listening to part 1 and thinking, why did she have no clue about anything when it came to art? And I know there's still people today that think in those ways, their thoughts about art are synonymous with, if you can paint or draw something photorealistically. And if you can't do that, then you're not an artist. You can't do art. Forget about it. It's not for you. And that's simply not true. That's simply not true. I'm not saying that it's not amazing for the people who can do that, but it's one category. It's one category of art. And so I love being able to teach and inspire children and to create all these amazing, fun, highly accessible art classes on video for children ages 5 and up using mixed media. I love inspiring them. I love encouraging them to bring their ideas to life. And I love doing it from a mindset and perspective that art is for everyone. And you don't have to be a quote unquote artist in the category of, oh, I'm an artist because I can draw something realistically or photorealistically. No. If you can't do that, that doesn't mean that you're not an artist. That doesn't mean that you're not creative. And that doesn't mean that you can't enjoy and be engaged regularly with creative projects of all different sorts and kinds, and enjoy them thoroughly, and to be able to do them well and to grow in your creative skills. So I really have a lot of, even as I'm talking about this, I feel a lot of passion welling up within me around this idea, because there should be no children who ever, let me put it this way, I don't want there to be any children who experience my art classes on video, and it is my goal that everyone feels welcome, that it's accessible for everyone. That, you know, even though the children are going to be at a variety of different skill levels, regardless, they will be able to do the projects at their level, and they will enjoy the projects because they're colorful and they're fun, and it's very unique. My classes are very unique. I use a particular kind of style for art journaling, and yeah, I'm not going to say too much about that. If you're interested in my classes, I think your children would absolutely love them. They're so convenient. If you have kids who enjoy being creative, these are awesome tools to have at home. So anytime your child is like, oh, I don't know what to do, and you have things to do, you need to cook dinner, you need to, you know, do whatever you need to be doing or want to be doing, and your child needs some meaningful engagement, you can, you know, get out the laptop, set up the art space, they can press play, and I walk them through the video art classes. So that's a lot of reasons right there why I think Comfort and Joy Art classes on video would really resonate with you and your family. Another reason is because, well, I could say so many reasons. I really could say so many reasons. I would just encourage you to check them out. I think you will love them. I think you will absolutely love them, and I know that your child will love them. And if you'd like to try a class, you can go to my website, comfortandjoyart.com, and there's a free class at the top of the website, and you can get that free class. It comes with a supply list, and you can, you know, set it up, have your child enjoy that class, see if it resonates with you, and if it does, then I know you're going to love my Forest Friends art classes and some of the other art classes that I have, and you can get those as well on my website, comfortandjoyart.com. So before I close completely, I just want to encourage you again, and I know I said some of this in part one, but I just want to say that, you know, God sometimes calls us in to take steps of faith into areas that are completely unfamiliar to us. And there's sometimes fear can block us. Fear and lack of knowledge and uncertainty can be a hindrance to us. And sometimes those things like really prevent us from taking steps of faith forward in the direction that God calls us to step in. But I want to encourage you to take the steps even if you're feeling the fear. You know, take the steps even if you don't understand what is going on or how following this leading is going to produce anything fruitful or meaningful or purposeful for your life. There's, you know, verses in the Bible, Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths. So when I think of that, those verses, you know, the first part of that verse is trust. And that's something that God prizes, he values very highly, is our trusting him, even when we don't know the outcome. He says, without faith, it is impossible to please him. And so faith and trust in God, you know, that is so precious in his sight in every element of our life. But it's also precious, especially when He's calling us to step into things that are unfamiliar or uncomfortable, and we're just not sure, like how it's all going to work out. And I think that that's just part of the design, that's part of the way human life on earth is experienced. We don't see everything. We only see parts, and we only see little glimpses, and we only see as much as God decides to show us. And if he's inviting us into something, or if he's inviting you into something, to step into a direction that you are unfamiliar with, or you don't know how, things could work out so that there could be purpose and meaning in stepping in that direction, I just want to just remind you that God will reward you for your faith and for your trust in him. And that, right after that verse, trust in the Lord with all your heart, the next part is lean not on your own understanding. So it's like, first of all, God is saying, I want you to trust me. And then, so that, that trust should empower you to take steps of faith. And then the next part, leaning not on your own understanding. I don't know if you're like me, but if you're anything like me, I like to have everything all figured out before I do something. I like to have it all worked out. I want to know how things are going to pan out before I start moving in a particular direction. But this is very specifically saying, number one, trust God. Number two, don't lean on your understanding. Like, God is specifically saying, set your understanding aside and instead follow me. Follow the leading, follow the prompting that I'm giving to you. And as you trust him, as you set aside your understanding and lean on his understanding in the leading and the prompting that he's leading you in, as you take those steps, then he will make your path straight and he will direct your paths. And if he's directing your paths, I promise that I'm not saying that everything's going to be perfect and easy. Life is not perfect and easy. It doesn't matter if you're walking with God, if you're not walking with God, it's not perfect and easy. It's hard. But there will be purpose, and there will be life, and there will be fruitfulness. Will there be challenges? Yes. Will there be problems to be solved? Yes. We live on planet Earth, not in heaven right now. But if you do those things, if God is calling you to take steps of faith in a brand new, unfamiliar, unknown direction, just do it. Just do it with your whole heart, in faith, with excitement and expectation about everything that God has in store for you and all the ways that he is going to bless and provide and direct and open doors for you as you take those steps and walk with him into the new adventure that he's calling you to. So thank you, my friend, for sticking around with me and taking time to hear a little bit more of my story and how I got started with art. And I just pray God's amazing blessings upon you today. And I can't wait to talk to you again soon. Okay, bye, my friend.